it's Shalee, Aussies for Yang here. So check out, first of all, look at my sexy math hat. Like, how cool is this bad boy? It's amazing. I've also got my little Andrew Yang pin. Alright. I haven't done one of these in a while because everyone says pretty much what I want to say most of the time. But I have a few, my voice just went really weird there. I have a few interesting insights into a couple of things that have kind of really become the forefront in the discussion regarding Andrew Yang and his policies that I wanted to kind of look at. What's going on with my light? Weird. Anyway, so without further ado, the main one I want to look at today is I want to focus on the healthcare system and the argument of whether it's better to have a single payer government run Medicare system or whether it's good to have a government run system as well as a private system. Now, I'm going to argue in favor of having a government system and a private system, but the main thing I want to get across is that my point of view on this is coming from me living in Australia and having both systems in place. Also, an important factor that I think needs to be pulled up is that countries that have private insurance as well as public often don't tie them to the employer, and I think that's where America gets it wrong. So that definitely needs to be pulled away from employment into just a completely private sector. And I'm going to explain why I have these views from a perspective of actually working in the allied health industry, which I have worked in for the past 3 years, and just explain some of my perspectives on a conversation around healthcare that's not really being had. And it's because it's a bit uncomfortable for people. People don't really want to think about what is part of their own responsibility for their own health. So let's get into it. All right. So I know that Andrew's going to start copying a bit of flack because he's come out and said he's not for Medicare for all as a government-only Medicare system as prescribed by Bernie Sanders. And I can already see on Twitter a lot of people being like, oh, this is a real deal breaker for me. It's not fair, we can't have health over profits, blah, blah, blah. And I completely understand that because, there are a few other elements in your healthcare system that don't happen anywhere else that really make your healthcare system really quite bad. Sorry. So I understand why people are frustrated, but I'd like to, give a different point of view. So, American healthcare system, if I am in a car accident, and I lose half my leg, and I get sent to hospital, if I don't have private insurance, then I'm going to get a bill, probably a 6-figure bill for doing that. If I, and it's really funny because, my uncle went to America, decades ago and got kidney stones or something and had to go in for an operation. And they basically were refusing to operate on him because he did have some level of health travel cover, but not expensive enough. And they had to fork out $26,000 just to get him into hospital immediately on the spot. And that really is what your healthcare system feels like. It does feel like if something happens to you, if you don't have private health insurance, they'll just let you die out the front of the hospital. And that does not happen in Australia. I can absolutely tell you now, if you're in a car accident in Australia, you literally, your leg might fall off and the ambulance will come and get you. You might get, a $500 bill for the ambulance, but that's only if, you call the ambulance and you're like, I have a headache, can you take me to the hospital? Usually, if it's, a full-blown emergency, they won't charge you at all. If it's more something that's not, a full-blown, your legs, come off, you're going to die emergency, if you've got ambulance insurance, which only literally costs $50 a year, you don't have to pay anything. So they'll take you to the hospital, you'll get great care, you'll get fixed up, your leg will get patched up, you might be there for a few days, they feed you, they look after you, and then you'll go out and you won't have a bill at the end of it. And you'll be like, sweet, awesome. That kind of system, I think definitely 100%, I understand the need for that in America, because it really does let people down if you don't have that. I also have it so that, like, if I need to go to the GP, for, like, say, you know, I might have to go and get some sort of antibiotics because I've got some sort of sickness, or, you know, I've got an ear infection, or I've got, like, I might have, you know, cut my hand open or something, and I can go to my GP and just the nurse can stitch it up or whatever. I'll pretty much get in, like, on the day at a GP. If you go for, like, a private person, you won't. But if you just go to, like, the bulk billing place, it's usually, like, you can find someone within you that will bulk bill. And you can go there, get that very basic kind of care that you need, and then just, like, go. I know that, like, in Canada and stuff, they seem to have a lot larger wait times for things. We don't really have that. Like, you don't have to wait, like, 8 weeks to see a GP here. You get in, like, the next day. Like, I had to get blood tests done the other day, and I literally just, like, went in. I booked the appointment online the day before. I went in, I got my blood tests. I booked an appointment for, like, 4 days later, got my results, and it was done. Like, so that type of stuff is completely, like, free. You do pay for it in your Medicare levy as part of your tax. So there is an element that you do pay for. But all in all, you pretty much know in Australia, if something happens to you, they're not going to just let you die. And that's a good thing. And I think America could definitely use that. So I understand that, that element of it. But here's the thing, right? So I work in Allied Health. And I see this all the time. And it's not a very pretty truth. It's not very comfortable, but it's the truth. And the truth is, if you don't have any form of investment in your own health, it doesn't matter how good a healthcare system you have, you won't be healthy. You just won't. And I see this all the time in my profession, where I work, where people who literally just get their, like, free visits, that the government pays for, like, 5 or 6 free visits at the place I am at, and they still have to pay out of pocket. But and it's funny because the amount of people who, as soon as you say, look, you're going to have to pay a little bit out of pocket, they're like, oh no, I don't want it. I only want free. And so, like, one of my colleagues works at a GP, because I work at a musculoskeletal clinic, and he does, like, bulk build, and he's been doing that for, like, years now. And straight up, he's like, these patients don't ever get better. Because of the fact it's free, they don't do any work outside of that room with me. So, for example, I'll give you a really, really basic example. Say you have, like, upper back and neck problems because you work in an office and you spend your whole time like this, yeah? You can come and see one of my practitioners and they'll do a heap of massage work and they'll crack your neck, and you'll feel free, and your posture might go back up and you'll feel better. But if you then just go back and you don't do any work and you go straight back to this and you just come in every single week for the same thing over and over and over, you will never, ever get any better. And that's with something that you're paying for. So they're paying for that service, but they're not doing any work outside of that service to prevent them from having it come back. And the uncomfortable reality is that so much of the illness and the health issues and crises that are costing us billions and billions of dollars are preventable diseases. That if people were empowered in their own choices and took a bit of responsibility for themselves, the healthcare costs wouldn't be as exorbitant. So to me, if you just make everything free, that makes that 10 times worse. Like, that's the thing. And there are studies that prove this. There are studies that show that the health outcomes of people who don't put any sort of financial investment, because if you think about it like this, say you only have $50 or $100 that you can spend on something, that's going to have significance to you. Like, you know, why do we buy houses? Why do we go into mortgages? Because we're investing in something and we're looking at the long-term outcome of having a piece of property. Our bodies and our health are exactly the same way. When you financially invest, I know this firsthand as well, when I financially invest in things, like why am I going to pay $150 to go and see the naturopath to tell me how to eat, and then I'm not going to do anything about it? If I got that service for free and it didn't matter what I actually chose to do or not do, would I take that person's professional advice with as much brevity as I would if it was just some free service? No, I wouldn't. Like, so you have to have some level of investment in yourself. And that's where the investing in your health comes in. So I don't think that having a system that is just everything is bulk billed is the right way to go, because that removes a lot of the personal autonomy and responsibility for your own health. And I mean, sure, there are going to be some things that, you know, if you break your leg, you can't account for that. But if you make a decision to smoke for your whole life and you get lung cancer, well, like, you know, there has to be a level of responsibility from people. And that's completely missing. And I know why that's missing. And it's missing because of the pharmaceutical industry. And you have to understand that human beings have been programmed for 50 years now, probably. I'd even say longer, 60, 70 years, into the notion of a pill for every ill. We have been programmed to think that we actually don't have autonomy over our own bodies, and that when we get sick or when things happen to us, we need to go to the doctor, the professional, to get a pill that will fix it. And then when that pill causes 3 other symptoms, we'll get 3 other pills. And then when they cause symptoms, we'll end up on 10 pills. And then we're dealing with all sorts of things while the pharmaceutical industry is laughing to the bank. Our entire Western doctrine of medicine runs on this notion. When you go to a doctor, it's, okay, what are your symptoms? Okay, give you this pill, give you this medication. And I think that needs an upheaval, because like that pill for every ill and I have no responsibility over my health, you need to pay for me, you need to fix me mentality has made us sicker mentally, physically, emotionally, the whole works. Like, especially when you look at a lot of the Western countries and you compare them to the Eastern countries, especially like China, Japan, world of difference in the way that we approach health in the first place. So what I really like about Andrew's perspective is that he takes preventative health into account. And I think that's why I have faith when he says, you know, I don't want a single payer, everything is free Medicare system. Like, so I think we should just have faith that he knows what he's doing, and that we have to take some of our own health into our own hands. There are cards that are dealt that are out of our control, but I think once you understand how the pharmaceutical industry works, you can make a choice to not participate in that. And so then the other element of that as well, which is really, really complex, is socioeconomics in terms of knowledge, empowerment, and resources. So what I love about Yang's healthcare system is to try and level the playing field and get rid of these food deserts, and get rid of and make more farm to table options, reduce the costs of like fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. So I think, and also the fact that he wants to have emotional aspects and mental health aspects be more accessible, and more less stigmatized as well, so that people can be empowered in actively improving and self-improving on themselves. And I think as well, once you get the freedom dividend and you put that in place and everyone knows I'm guaranteed $1,000, I'm not going to dead bang starve, so I can take some risks, I can do some investing, I have more options, I have more chances, and lift that boot off people's throats. I think that the decision making and that understanding of their own personal responsibility and empowerment will happen. It may take a while, and I think you need to put plans in place so that people can be empowered in their own choices. And yeah, that is my main perspective of why I really feel that it's valuable to have public and private. Because like for elective surgeries, like if I wanted to get a nose job or to get liposuction or what else could there be, you know, anything really that is like a preventative, kind of superficial, not a, you know, like even if I just want to go and get a massage because I really like getting a massage, those type of things, I don't think they should just be free. Like, you do need to have a bit of a line at some point. And then my second perspective is that I don't know about you, but I 100% do not trust the government to be able to determine what is healthcare. I don't at all. I think that the government is decades behind and slow on the uptake. And also, because you've had so much corporate lobbying from the pharmaceutical industry and from the agricultural industry and the dairy industry and all these different industries that have profit-based interests, I don't think that the government can make those decisions of what is healthcare for the people. As a 100%, you have no other option than to do what the government tells you you should do. Like, because the government actively supports a pill for every single freaking ill. Like, and they are so bloody behind on shit. Like, here's some examples. I had to actually write stuff down for this. So, like, for example, the food pyramid is a crock of shit. It's still put in schools. Like, the actual facts of the food pyramid is that what happened was the lady made it, it was practically inverted. So basically everything that you see like as, so you know how you've got all your cereals and stuff, that was like more on the smaller bit. Meats and dairy was like really small. Fruits and veggies were like the bottom one, with predominantly fruits and vegetables. I think like some whole grains, healthy fats, and all of this kind of stuff. And then processed food and breads and all of that was like right up the top of the like, don't eat this too much. And then what happened was they presented that. And then the dairy industry came in and said, well, we don't like this. This isn't going to encourage people to drink milk. The cereal and the wheat industry came in and were like, well, we don't like this. The meat industry came in, was like, we don't like this. And they put heaps of money and lobbied that so that when the government's official food pyramid came out, it was a crock of shit. And really, look at the results of what a heavy meat, heavy wheat, heavy processed, heavy high sugars, low in actual good healthy fats, look at the results. So do I trust the government to actually be able to determine that? No. The government in 2019 still doesn't actually understand what healthy eating is. Still. So, you know, how can I trust that they're going to do 100% the right thing if they're the only option? Like, also, look at marijuana. Look how long it's taken to get marijuana. And in Australia, we still don't have legal marijuana in most places. And the evidence is so starkly there. It's been there for so long. But the government sits back and ums and ahs. And like, can you honestly imagine if every time your healthcare system had to make some sort of change, you had to rely on the government to and ah in Congress and get paid off by this one and get money from this one? Like, it's a nightmare. You need to be able to have consumer choice and different options because different things work for different people. If the government dictates the entire like healthcare system of, well, we're going to like do this and then we're going to do this. And if you come in with, say, a thyroid issue, you have to go on this medication. Or like, I just don't trust the government to successfully implement it at the best interests of the people. Do I trust private health insurers to do the same thing? No. No, I don't. Which is why I feel like you need both. And then you can make consumer choices. But if you look at what private health insurance covers, it often covers more of that preventative, alternative, like different stuff. So until the governments can actually start removing themselves from the big pharmaceutical industry, which I feel like if, you know, Andrew Yang got in and democracy dollars got put through, plus term limits on Congress, and plus, you know, presidents not being allowed to like sit on any major boards after they've been in office. If all of that stuff gets put in place, I think you could have a shot at potentially doing something for the better of the people. But right now, when you've got lobbyists and corporations running your government, I think it's dangerous to say they are going to be the ones to determine what's healthy. Because what happens if they get it really, really wrong? I mean, we did used to think cocaine was good. And we used to think smoking was good. And smoking used to be something that the government was like, oh, smoking's fine. Like, I don't trust them. So that's why I feel like you need choice. You need choice, you need personal responsibility, you need empowerment, you need systems to get put into place to allow people to be empowered. And that is like the main thing that I find so freaking appealing about Andrew Yang, is that he wants to remove a lot of this bureaucratic garbage and red tape and stuff that makes people feel lesser than human, so that people can feel actively empowered in their own lives and responsible. Because I think it's important to remember that part of being empowered and autonomous and being told, I trust that you can make the best decision for yourself, means that you have some responsibility over those decisions. So it's not just a health shift that we need a mindset shift to refocus and realign on us as individuals being empowered and responsible. So yeah, that's my thoughts on healthcare. I'm really excited to see what Yang's plan is. I have a feeling what it's going to be is the eventual removal of private health from businesses and into a more private sector. It will hopefully be that the 99.99% of emergencies will get covered under a public option. And basic things like going to the GP, getting your vaccinations, all of that kind of stuff can just be included in a public plan, so that if you are in an accident or something bad happens to you, you will be taken care of and you will not be left on the street to die. But at the same time, I reckon he's going to come out and he's going to try and create something that really invigorates capitalism, creates really strong competition. I also think he's going to do a lot about prescription drugs in terms of changing the prices and basically saying to these companies that you can't price gouge us. So the medications, even though you might have a public and a private system, you'll have medications that are a lot cheaper if you put certain legislation into place on prescription medication. Because obviously, I've talked a lot about drugs are bad. I don't think all drugs are bad. I think that there are drugs for certain things that are vital. But I don't believe in this notion that you're just going to get fixed by taking lots of pills. I think that if it's the right pill for the right thing, then that's fine. For example, if I have something that requires antibiotics, I will take antibiotics. But I'm not going to just take antibiotics like lollipops because I have a cold. So there are uses and advantages from all of the systems that allow people to be okay. Because some medication is life-saving. So it's not that all medication is bad, it's just that medication is not the fixer of the problem. It is often just there to suppress the symptoms. So we need to shift away from that. But I think if it is needed, it needs to be affordable. And I think that Andrew is a smart dude and his plan will make it so that these medications are a lot more affordable whilst also actively encouraging preventative health measures. And I'm really excited about it. Let me know what you think. I hope this has been somewhat interesting. And yeah, I will, my next video that I'm going to do is going to be on, I'm going to talk about welfare, because I actually worked in the welfare system in Australia and I have a lot to say on this. I have a lot to say on how messed up welfare is and how disempowering welfare is and how it traps people into these classes, and how universal basic income shits on every single fucking welfare program ever invented. And then if you ever have to pick between a universal guaranteed basic income and you have to go to the bureaucracy and not earn this much and not do this and report that just so you can get $200 in SNAP, universal income wins. All right, guys. Sorry this was so long, but it's a lot. Have a good one.